Greetings, traveler. How can a creative person who is just starting out on his professional and creative journey have enough skill and enough business knowledge to turn his passion into a job? That is certainly a question that has bugged my mind for many decades now, and it's something that I think a lot of people are wrestling with today. They start out and in school they have all these things they want to do, all this passion, but their parents, their friends, and even themselves often wonder, how is that going to become a normal job? And should you focus on that, and shouldn't you just do something else instead? So today what I want to do is share a bit of a conversation I had last night with a friend about his son and what he wants to do in the future, and tell you my easy mode of achieving this from my own experience in the games industry so far. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for over 14 years. I've been playing games ever since I can remember. And so when I mentioned that about myself to my friend, he mentioned his son who wants to go into cinematography, and he loves it as a passion. He knows so much about colors and composition and so on, but it's a very tough area to penetrate and even more tough to succeed in. So he was asking me about what advice I would possibly have or potentially have for his son, or for somebody who just wants to be creative like that and turn that into their job. So what I can say from my experience is that for me it was a similar situation growing up. I always knew I wanted to make games. I didn't know how I would do it. I thought the obvious next step would be to study something relevant to it. Unfortunately, game design was not a discipline back then, so the closest thing I could study was computer science, which wasn't completely relevant, but still it wasn't exactly what I was going for. So my approach to getting closer and closer to my dream of making my own games and own content for games and so on was to first get the exposure necessary to this kind of task. So that meant little by little studying it as much as possible, trying to analyze the games I played as much as possible, and try to find work positions closer and closer to what I wanted to do. Eventually I got experience enough to be able to go on and do my own thing, but that journey I thought was the most interesting and perhaps relevant to my friend's son, and perhaps to some other traveler like you out there. So my way of thinking back then was that if I am in the same environment as the people who make games, then at the very least I would be able to see how others make it, see what elements are necessary, what sort of people are needed to make a game, what sort of software, what sort of skills, how long does making a game take, or how much budget you need, all these things. And also I had to understand a little bit more about people who were doing other disciplines in making games, so the art, the sound, marketing, all these other things surrounding game design. So after doing that for several years, eventually I had enough confidence in my skills, both creatively and business-wise, and as a whole, I suppose, to be able to know what I would do if I would strike it out on my own. Now that is very different from the situation starting out, right? I know everybody has this dream of becoming this crazy YouTuber who everybody loves from day one, and you're making millions, just from the beginning. Yeah, people like that maybe exist. I don't know. I don't know anyone specifically like that. But that's not something you can make happen. It's not a process you can control. A process you can control is this little by little exposure, and the runway to have infinite trials and infinite failures until you eventually find your success, which will happen as long as you walk down that path. So having a job somewhere in a field close to what you want to do creatively I think definitely helps. It definitely exposes you to how other people do it, and then you will always have a choice to learn and to decide whether you want to do the same thing when you're doing it for yourself, or whether you want to do it differently and try out your own solution to what other things, to what you believe other people are maybe not doing so well. So that's a choice you always have. And by doing that, you also have the stable income to be able to at least survive. And this income will probably only do that. It will only enable you to survive. So no fancy holidays, no Ferraris in your garage, nothing like that. No garage to speak of. But it will at least have covered that need of food and water and rent. So between work or during work or in parallel with work, you can go ahead and try it in your own way to create something on your own, to create all the art and all the games perhaps, or movies, or whatever it is you want to do. And the key here is doing it on your own time for free and with essentially no negative impact. Let's say you want to make movies and you have this job to create this massive movie that will make millions of dollars, and it doesn't go well. It impacts many people, and it certainly impacts you, right? But if you're just making movies at home for fun or for friends, or just to upload on YouTube, who cares? It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be successful. If it's not successful, your life is not impacted. And that, I think, is a very, very overlooked benefit to this approach. So I know everybody wants to quit their job and quickly get to doing the interesting creative parts. But the cool thing about a job somewhere is how much you can learn from osmosis, right? Just by being there and just by observing people who are already doing it, you're subconsciously learning so much. And besides, you can stop it whenever you want, really. That's up to you. So the turning point comes when, after you do it for fun for some time, and after you fail for zero cost essentially, and after this type of failure, it doesn't even feel like failure, it feels like fun. You're just trying things out and no one cares. After you do it for a while, and what I noticed as well is, especially starting out, doing work quote unquote for free and just giving it out to other people is just, it's a fun thing to do. It's an excellent way to get feedback, and this iteration is exactly what I found I needed to be able to grow. So something I noticed recently is that back in the day this wasn't glamorous at all, but nowadays being a DM for Dungeons & Dragons who can put a game together in a somewhat coherent fashion is something that's well respected and well admired in certain circles. And nowadays even people have YouTube channels focused around that, or lead team building activities with Dungeons & Dragons in companies, getting paid to do it. But when I started, nobody would pay you to play Dungeons & Dragons. You had to pay. You had to get all the books and the dice and all that. And for your friends wouldn't pay you to be the dungeon master. You would have to convince them to join this crazy new game, right? And I think that's exactly the perfect game environment where you can just play this game with no impact, no negative effects whatsoever, and you can just have fun and learn. And by repeating that over and over and over, your skill at it inevitably rises. So at some point, your skill is so high and people are enjoying your work so much, they start asking you to do things for them. So in my experience, I was always trying to convince my friends to play Dungeons & Dragons. And after we played a few times, they're like, so when is our next session? So that turning point. And you might be wondering, well, how do I apply this to music or art or videos or games or whatever? It's the same thing there. By doing it on the side and doing it for fun and for free, you have the ideal environment to raise your skill without always tiptoeing and without always afraid of, oh, what will others think, or what if they don't like it. If it's for free, they're free to not like it. So they didn't pay you any money for it, you didn't pay any money for it, so it's all free, it's all just fun. And then let's say I was talking to another friend back in the day, and she wanted to make glassware. She wanted to make her own glassware, which means little glasses or bottles and so on, but she would get to decorate the glass and tint the glass in a certain color. And she's like, well, I have my other job, so I wonder how I could do that. And basically that's the same advice I would give her. You can start doing it for free, and people, once you give them 1 or 2 glasses that are beautiful, perhaps maybe they want the rest of the set, or perhaps they want to give one as a gift to a friend who has a birthday. And little by little you get better, and little by little people start asking for it. So always being stressed about how can I sell one thing I made enough to make me, I don't know, $1 million, because that's how much I need to survive. That line of thinking is extremely stressful, and you cannot control it. You cannot force the next person you meet to pay you whatever you think they should pay you. But offering something for free usually is a pretty easy sell. And if they don't like it, you get to ask why they didn't like it, or how they would like it to be different. And that naturally, it's beautiful how naturally and inevitably it sets you down the path of success. So that's literally all that's necessary. Doing it over and over again, even if it's for free in the beginning, will inevitably make you better, and it will inevitably get people who got it initially for free to want more, because free good stuff is great, and please give me more of it. So eventually you can start asking, how about $1 for that, or $2 for that, or whatever you think is a good initial price. That's I think is a beautiful framework to think about growing your creative skills to the point where you can charge money for it, and you can even do it individually, as your own company, or as your own consulting or freelance, or whatever form fits you. And I think also that's the ultimate expression and the most beautiful part about games themselves. If you think about what a game is, any game, it's basically an activity that models part of real life. So if you're playing with your friends chasing each other, perhaps you're modeling the dynamics of hunting or something like that. So even if the game is just about chasing your friends, you're still working out your muscles, you're still thinking about group dynamics, you're still thinking about how to best apply your route to catch your friend, like special recognition and all that. And because it's a game, you get to repeat it again and again and again, an infinite amount of times without paying for anything. While if you're super hungry and you have to hunt an animal to eat it, then and you don't manage to catch it, yeah, that sucks. That has a cost, right? But if you're chasing your friends around, there's no cost. You can do it as many times as you want. Whether you succeed or fail, you always learn. You learn more when you fail, actually. And you get to repeat it very, very, very often. While a real hunt, people would do it once a day or once a week or something. It was a completely different cycle with very high stakes. So if we can apply the same game process to our creative development, I think that's a great opportunity. I think it would be a shame not to take it. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this topic. If you're in a similar situation, trying to grow your creative skills and wondering what's the best framework to do it in, and you have come up with something even better, please let me know. I would love to hear your approach as well. Sorry, my throat is always killing me. I don't know why. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have fun.